Hi, hello, and welcome back to PJs and Pages. Thank you for joining me for today. We are going to be doing an April wrap up, a very small April wrap up, and a May TBR, which it will be significantly more extensive. So in April, I had a really rough reading month. It took me forever to get through my first book, and yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So the first book I read was Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas. This book took me like 2.5 weeks to get through. I kid you not. I did enjoy my time reading it. It is the fourth book. Yeah, fourth book in the Throne of Glass series. And I had really high hopes for it because I have loved all of the other books. They haven't been 5-star reads for me, but they've been like 4.5-star reads. This book, though, was like a 3.5 only because of the ending. And yeah, it was a lot to get through. And I don't know if it's just because of the book, which I do think that this book is not as good as the other three that I've read, but it may also have been just the state that I was in. It is a longer book, and I have been reading a lot slower lately. This book is 562 pages, and yeah, it follows Selena's adventures after she is sent to a farther land. And I won't go into much more details, but there is more magic in this one. There's another character introduced who I wasn't as thrilled about until the end. And honestly, I probably could have gotten less perspective of her. There's an additional romance that's brought in. I don't know. I just wasn't as thrilled about this one. So 3.5 stars, Heir of Fire, fourth book in a series. So I won't give too much detail about what it's about because that would spoil the other 3 books. But Throne of Glass so far looking like a 4-star read for me too. After Heir of Fire, after Heir of Fire, I went ahead and I picked up Babel, but I put aside Babel because my Fantasy Island friends were reading The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo, and I had to drop everything and pick up a Leigh Bardugo. Not because Babel wasn't interesting. It is absolutely great, and I plan on finishing it. But I had to read something by Leigh Bardugo if it comes out, and I just love reading with my Fantasy Island friends. So Leigh Bardugo's The Familiar. It was one of my most anticipated reads of the year, and it did not disappoint, although just a heads up, if you're a Leigh Bardugo fan, this is very different than her previous works. It is light on the fantasy, I would say. There is fantasy in it, but that's not what the story is about. And the world building is different because it's not a brand new world. Kind of similar to Ninth House. It's our same world, but altered. And not even really altered the way Ninth House is. Like, there's not like a secret society. This is, I don't know if it's 15th or 1600s, something like that. I can't remember what age it is, but it's the golden age of Spain during the Inquisition. So definitely different, much more historical fiction with magical realism than fantasy. And it, for me, it just goes to show what kind of range this woman has. She is a phenomenal writer. I really, really, really like this. I'd say it was probably a 4.5-star read, and only because the ending I feel was a little rushed. This follows Lucia Cotado. It actually follows a couple of different people's perspective, but Lucia is the main character, and she has these magical abilities. She's this Jew hiding out in pretending to be a Catholic or Christian, Catholic, I think. And she is hiding in this woman's house as a scullion maid, and Valentina finds out. Valentina's the woman she's kind of like a aristocrat, but they're like on the low end, and they're kind of impoverished aristocrats. So they can basically afford her and a cook, and that's about it. So Valentina finds out that she has these magical abilities and decides to use her in these dinner parties to like spice up her dinner parties. And this is dangerous because she could either be someone who has like the gift of God, or she could be the devil, like, or the devil's working through her. She's a witch, she needs to be burned, kind of thing. So either way, they start showing her off at these dinner parties, and Lucia is a very prideful person, and she ends up going along with it because she doesn't want to be just plain old Lucia, the scullion maid. She wants to be powerful. So anywho, because of this, they draw the attention of this very dangerous man who has like this valet kind of person, who's very creepy, and they kind of take in Lucia and like put her in this competition with other people who have magical abilities that are gifts from God. They're making miracles. So definitely really enjoyed this. It was exciting. It kept on moving. I loved the pace. I loved the world. I don't think I've read a lot of stuff during the golden age of Spain, and this was phenomenal. I thought it was so much fun. There is a slight romance in it. I enjoyed that. And like always, the romance is not the heavy part of her plot, but there is one sprinkled in there just so you're happy. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was well done. And like I said, the only thing I had an issue with was that the ending was too fast. I actually do like the way that it ended. I just wish it had been drawn out a little longer. This book is 379 pages, and I easily could have gone for like a 400-page book if it meant that I could get more details about the ending. So The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo, great book, highly recommend. And after I finished Leigh Bardugo's The Familiar, I thought about going back to Babel, but the problem with going back to Babel is that it was also historical fiction with a little touch of fantasy, and I wanted to read something a little different, just to so I don't end up in a slump. And I was between two books, and I ended up deciding to go with First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston. This is I think it's considered a domestic thriller, but it's not as domestic as some of the other domestic thrillers I've read. She's like a con woman, and she like is falling for her mark, and she's trying to find out the identity of her employer, who has remained secret to her for years. And he's a dangerous guy, and basically like it's a cat and mouse game of her trying to get dirt on him and him trying to evade her, and it was really good. I don't want to say too much because with thrillers, I think it's a little bit better to go into them a little blind, but I will say the little blurb, not the whole thing, is a really good intro to it. Evie Porter has everything a nice Southern girl could want: a doting boyfriend, a house with a white picket fence, a tight group of friends. The only catch, Evie Porter doesn't exist. Yeah, I thought it was really fun. The stakes were pretty high. The characters, morally gray, so still likable, even though if they hadn't been morally gray, they would not have been likable characters, but they were morally gray. So I found them very, very likable and even relatable at times. So First Lie Wins, really enjoyed this one. It was a Reese's Book Club pick, and I read it to read with some friends that we're going to be talking about all the Reese's Book Club picks. And yeah, I've had really good luck with her picks, so definitely going to be picking up more of those. I'd probably rate First Lie Wins as a 4-star. It's hard for me to give a 5-star to a thriller, especially because my 5-star rating I reserve for books that I want to reread again, that are perfect books. This was basically a perfect thriller. I just don't see myself reading it again. So I'd say it's 4.5 stars for sure. But I already know how it's going to end, kind of thing. Maybe I will read again. Let's go with 4.5 stars because there's a chance that I might read it again. Yeah, 4.5 stars for Sly Wins. All right, and I think, yeah, that's all I read this month. 3 books. It was a sad month. Heir of Fire took me a long time to get into, and it basically put me in a reading slump. I had to decide to just take a break from the Throne of Glass series for a little bit. I have heard that the next book is really, really good, so I am excited to read it, especially with the way that the Heir of Fire ended. She has a really good way of ending her book so you want to pick up the next one, but unfortunately for me, that middle part was just too long. So I'll pick up Queen of Shadows real soon here, but I don't know. Actually, yeah, let's add it to the list of things that I'm going to pick up. I'm going to go ahead and just get started with the May TBR because I didn't finish reading anything else. Actually, I have books that I'm in the process of reading. So let's talk about those first because, yeah, Babel. I started it in April and then I put it down for the familiar. And I'm hoping that I have time to finish it this month because, like I said, I really was enjoying it. I'm annotating it like crazy. It's so good. And it's a dark academia fantasy that takes place in like an alternate London where some people have the ability to imbue silver with magical properties using linguistics. So it's really good. It follows Robin, who is rescued by this professor in Canton when his whole family dies of like some illness, and he's saved by one of these silver bars and this mysterious professor, and then he is sent to Oxford to learn this magical art of imbuing silver because he happens to be gifted in languages. So he deals with themes about colonialism, racism, and the love of language, and I was expecting it to be over my head, but it's actually very readable. It's my first R.F. Kuang book, and I am really enjoying it so far. I really, really hope that I get to finish this one this month because I am enjoying it. I'm about a little bit over a third of the way through. So really want to get to that one. And then on my Kindle, I have been reading 1984. I left my Kindle at my aunt's house when we went to Greenville this month. And so I don't have it. And it's been very hard to finish it on my phone. I just don't like reading on my phone. So yeah, she's mailing it back to me. I should have it in a couple of days, but until then, can't finish 1984. I wasn't probably going to finish it by the end of April anyway. I was at 60%, and so there's probably no way I would have finished it just reading at night. So either way, I plan on finishing 1984, and I will get into why I want to finish it in just a minute. So currently, I am reading A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen with my Fantasy Island book friends. And this one, I know very little about it. Yeah, I know about what is here. A woman blessed by the gods battles to unite a nation under a power-hungry king while also fighting her growing desire for his fiery son in this Norse-inspired fantasy romance from the best-selling author of the Bridge Kingdom series. So I've never read anything by Danielle L. Jensen. My expectations pretty low because I don't know what to expect from her, but I saw Norse mythology. I thought that was cool. I saw fantasy romance. I love fantasy romance, and there's magic and stuff. So, and look at this edition. Oh my god, it's so pretty. It's so pretty. And the naked, oh my god. And the naked hardback is just gorgeous. It's like, yeah, It's beautiful. So, A Fadington Blood, I'm going into it pretty blind. I didn't want to know many details because I think it's going to work out better that way. But I am enjoying that so far. I'm like, I don't know, 50 pages, 60 pages in. So Fadington Blood, that's one of my reads for May. Another book that I plan on reading is Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. This one is about a widow whose son disappeared about 30 years ago, and she begins working at this aquarium and befriends a giant Pacific octopus, and he's curmudgeonly. Sounds great. And he helps her solve the mystery of her missing son. So I've heard mixed things about this. I think I'm gonna love it. I like the idea, like, I'm sure it's magical realism or something, or I don't know. Apparently the octopus narrates part of it, so I'm really excited about that. I think I'm gonna like it, and I'm really excited about it. I'm reading this with my Find New Book Club, and very excited to read it with those girls. And from my library on World Book Day, I picked up The Rachel Incident by Caroline O'Donoghue. And this I actually originally saw as an aardvark book, and I didn't pick it up at the time because I wasn't sure if I was really gonna like it, but my tastes seem to be changing, and I think I would like it now. And it popped up in my library. So picked it up to give it a shot. And I don't know much about it besides it being about a girl named Rachel, and her roommate James, and her falling in love with a married professor of hers. And I don't know much about it except that it sounds like they are very messy people, and I am in the mood for some messy drama. So excited to pick this one up. It is relatively short for books that I read. It's under 300 pages, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 289 pages. So just under 300 pages, and I'm gonna try and get to it by the end of the month. Next up is Queen of Shadows. My goal is to read this month Queen of Shadows, start continuing with my Throne of Glass read, because my goal is to finish the series by the end of the year. And this is the last one before the big tandem read. The tandem read's probably going to take me all month, if we're being perfectly honest. This one is 642 pages. It's 100 pages longer than Heir of Fire. I really hope that everybody is not lying and this book is better than Heir of Fire, because if it's not, this might take me all month to read. This is continuing Selena Sardouthian's adventures. I won't go too much into it, but I think that the titles kind of give away things about where these books are going. So that's just my personal opinion. Ow. So stay tuned. I will have a spoilery reading vlog about my adventure reading this and the rest of the books in the series coming in the next few months. And finally, my Kindle books. I plan on finishing 1984, like I said, and that is so that way I can get into Julia, and I don't remember who it's by. Julia by Sandra Newman, which is supposed to be a retelling of 1984 from Julia's perspective. For those of you who are not aware, Julia is the woman that he ends up having like a love affair with during the novel. That's not a spoiler. That happens, and that it happens at the very beginning of the story. So yeah, I'm excited to read it from her perspective, because the perspective of 1984 is extremely male. Rereading it, there's some things said that I'm like, huh, okay, is this anti-feminist? I don't know. Is this like a little misogynistic? Just a little bit. And I'm curious to read a story that comes from Julia's perspective. So really excited to read Julia. And then I am hoping to also get to Legendary. I started this one and put it down for 1984 because I was feeling reading 1984 at the time. So I was mood reading like crazy. And Legendary, I was actually enjoying it more than Caraval. So I want to pick it back up because I want to get back to it and hopefully finish it this month if there's time. And that way I can finish the last book in that series, which is Finale, I think. Finale. I don't know. Because I've got these special editions of the Once Upon a Broken Heart that I really want to get to. Those are the ones I really want to read, and I can't because I haven't read the Caraval series. And I know you don't have to read the Caraval series to read these, but I do. I have to read them. My brain will not let me read this series without me finishing this one. So I'm going to finish it, and that means I've got to get to Legendary this month. Hopefully, fingers crossed. After I finish Julia though, because I really want to get through this 1984 Julia thing because it was stuck in my head and I just have to do it. So yeah, I think that's it. This month I want to read Fate Inked in Blood, Remarkably Bright Creatures, The Rachel Incident, Babel, 1984, Julia, Legendary, and Queen of Shadows. So that is my May TBR. It is extensive. It is ambitious, especially considering the last 2 months I've averaged about 3 to 4 books. So very ambitious May TBR. I think I'm off to a good start because I've already started a Fate Inked in Blood at least, and that's good. And I've already started 1984, so I'm halfway through it at least. That's good. So maybe I will make more progress than I originally anticipated. But yeah, let me know what you guys are planning on reading this month. If you've read any of these books, what your thoughts and opinions were on them. I'd love to hear them in the comments down below. If you made it this far, please leave a comment. Let's say an octopus for Remarkably Bright Creatures. Leave an octopus emoji in the comments below if you've made it this far, and I will see you in the next video. Oh, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you can get more content from me. Bye.